afternoon. My name is Toyin Morafa, and you're tuning into another episode of Voice of the Voiceless. With me today, I've got two lovely guests. We're here to talk about a lot of things, a lot of topical issues like we normally do. On my right hand side, I've got Miss Felicia Cade. She's from America, so it's a pleasure having you here today.
That's nice.
Yeah. On the other side as well, I've got Pastor Olayiwole. Yeah, so even though he's meant to be having something at his church, he actually left the church just to come here today because he thinks what we're doing is very, very important. So you're both welcome on stage for today.
Thank you.
Before we go into anything, I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves, talk about what you're doing and how important you think the things we're doing today are. So would you like to start?
Yes, so I say my name is Felicia Cade. I'm a poet, a speaker, community activist, as well as a youth advocate. I'm from Los Angeles, California, so I do a lot of community organizing with a few community organizations back at home. I work a lot with doing women's workshops. I just started a new program to where I'm going to be doing workshops for at-risk youth as well, and teaching. It's basically UTM, which is teaching them how to unpack trauma through writing, so that we can move forward. That's just some of the work that I'm doing.
So I believe I'm talking to an expert at spoken words.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we will be delving a lot more into that. Yeah. Okay. Well, Pastor Olayiwole, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, as usual, my name have not changed. Still Pastor Gbenga Olayiwole from the Believers Fellowship and Prayer Ministry, London. Here, I'm delighted to be here today, knowing too well that I have a program that is going on in the church. But I believe there's importance to what we're about to do today, knowing too well that we want to talk about the generation to come. Those are the children we're going to leave behind. And it's now a major concern to me, especially what is happening around now in London. And I pray that God will intervene speedily in Jesus' name.
Thank you very much for that. Let me start with you, Miss Cade. Or can I can call you Felicia because it's easier for me.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I'm so grateful that you're here today was we had something at the Parliament on the 26th of March, and you were there. That's where we met. And you said a lot of things that day that really touched me, which is the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you. You were saying something about the generational gap, between us and the kids.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we're having these problems, because it seems like we're talking at the kids, not to them. Could you go into details a bit more on that one?
Yes, I noticed that, and it's something that is very similar back at home in Los Angeles as well. There's this generational gap where millennials such as myself, we're coming from a generation that was very rigid and very strict. They didn't talk about how they felt. Parents didn't do much listening. It was what I say goes. And now being a part of a generation that is very expressive, very in tune with their emotions, that are more emotionally intelligent. One of the most emotionally intelligent generations, I think, to come because of access of information. You have access to learn more about yourself and the world. And I think because of that generational gap, that the previous generation hasn't quite adjusted and doesn't know how to adjust. And so because of that, there's a disconnect. And they're not talking, as I was saying, they're not listening to their children. They're listening, and when they are, they're listening to correct them and not listening to understand them. And so they're not respecting the kids, and because of that, they rebel and they look for other people to talk to that don't give, equal advice. And the parents are frustrated, and so it's this gap where it creates that, where the parents are frustrated, and the kids don't have anyone to talk to and don't have anyone to connect with, and they become kind of abandoned in a way, emotionally abandoned.
So do you think it has anything to do with culture? Like someone like me, for example, I'm passed over here. We've got two diverse cultures. We're Nigerian immigrants as well as we're British, so we're able to identify with both sides. But some of these kids are not exposed to things like that. Do you think that's part of the problem that we're having when talking about the youth?
Oh, absolutely. I think absolutely. Like one of the things that I've learned being out here, especially being with a Nigerian family, is that there's certain values that's set in place. There's certain level of love that is taught, And I think that's important more so than learning how to cook a traditional dish, but understanding the foundational things that have upheld your cultural background for so long. You know, the importance of family and of talking and of love and hospitality. Those values, I think, are being missed. I think we're kind of moving into just globally rushed culture that isn't taking the time to show those little things that I think are important. So I think it is a gap in that as well. Would help with the kids having a sense of foundational identity.
So, Pastor, what do you think about that? You know, how can you use your background to, well, how can we use our background to be able to, you know, the gap is there, to be able to close it in and let the kids know that we're here for them, we're ready to hear them and support them, and be able to specify or tailor whatever it is, the training that they need to suit them at that time?
Thank you very much. I want to summarize from where my sister just stopped. You see, I discovered that shouting them down cannot help. What we need is to pick them up. Then the second important factor is when you are taking something from somebody, you need to give them an option of, you must be ready to give them something. You want to stop them from doing something, then what do you want to give them? You need to give them an alternative. That's what is lacking. In my own time, you don't have a choice. As she has just said, they have a lot of information. We don't have that there. So if you don't build that relationship with them, you will lose them to the society. So when you are taking anything from them, you must give them alternative. When you want to shout down your son that no, you cannot go to play football, then you need to give him something. So when you leave them with no alternative, they will look for the alternative themselves. And these are some of what is causing the gap. The gap can be bridged, and that's where we need the proper alternative. And it's a concern to me. And we just have to start from somewhere. And that's what we are trying to do as a church. We have the youth forum. I think one of our youth pastors was with you at the parliament. And we do a lot of this. After the service, we still allow them to do what they want to do. We hear them, we hear from them. You know, most of the time they're always complaining that the church is not helping them. We are not listening to them. So once you discover that these are their issues, then you need to table it on the table and see how you handle it. Most of the time we shut them down instead of picking them up. And I think if this is properly looked into, we're going to get somewhere.
From there.
So true. And I think too, it's so true that we shout them down without listening to them, and also enforce the idea of who we think they should be and what they should be doing, instead of giving them their own ability to grow into themselves and find who they are through whichever avenue that they want, you know, without putting such harsh and heavy expectations.
But because of the type of music culture and the things that we have these days, I believe it's a bit difficult to understand where they're coming from sometimes, because the music is so, compared to when we were growing up, the music is a bit violent and a bit vicious now. And maybe, yes, maybe that's how they're catching their fun, but someone like me, I simply can't comprehend what you will need. Do you understand? So rather than me talking to you about the basic things that you're talking about now, I'm more scandalized by the music they're listening to. So how do you think we can still bridge this? Because I know it's still causing a lot of problems like these days.
I think, you know, one of the things I think is important to really think about is that there's an audience for what they're listening to. And a lot of the music industry, you know, they go after what's wanted because that's what's going to make money. So I think it's even a worse issue that there's an audience for it, that the kids enjoy listening to something of low, you know, listen to things of which I perceive as being, you know, low grade. They're talking about things that aren't challenging or that aren't really, you know, appealing in any way. Repetitive things and lyrics that aren't going to be able to progress you forward, you know. So I think that it's sad that they have grown to gravitate towards that kind of music because it's more so gravitating to them trying to be something that they're not versus who they really are.
Who they really are. That's the point. That is a very fantastic point, and I think that's what we're trying to get to. And talking about that, I'd like to introduce a conversation we were having before about the late rapper, Nipsey Hussle. One of the reasons why I'm talking about him today is that you see that ideology those things, the things he was into, the things that he started with his community, are the things we're trying to import into our community now. We're trying to make the kids see that no matter how bad a start that you have, once you've got the right support in the community, you understand, you too can go places.
Yeah.
And I think that's why his death touched a lot of people, including me. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to know about him when he was alive. So could you just give us a brief background about him and the reason why his death had such an impact?
Yeah, Nipsey Hussle was, I mean, he meant the world to our community, especially out in LA, because not only was his message uplifting, but he talked about generational wealth. He talked about buying property. You know, he talked about us advancing as a community, as Black Americans. And he not only talked about it, but he was creating programs around what he was talking about. Right. He bought the entire estate where his business was, and employed people from his neighborhood and from the gang that he was, you know, that he was from. So he was not just talking about it, but he was actually doing it and implementing a plan and putting his own money. And he didn't get a record deal, so he got everything that he got by his own hustle and his own hard work. But I think what really made it hit home was that he was touchable. He was one of those people that were
nobody
hung out
around him.
Yeah, he was, you know, he was touchable, and I think that is what what makes it hurt so bad, especially being from LA, and you know how rough and difficult it can be just to make it out. You know, so to make it out and not just leave like a majority of the rappers have done, but to make it out and to come back and to be so touchable is like.
Even though he kept saying that he might get killed in the neighborhood, he was still able to, you know, to still come back and develop things. Which brings me to you, Pastor. I've got a lot of arguments that normally I get into argument with regards to church involvement. A lot of people think I'm against churches. Well, I'm not. I am not against churches. What I really don't like is the fact that we don't see the church in, you know, the involvement. Yes. We don't see the impact there. Now here, unfortunately, like I was saying, it took his death for us to realize his work. Well, we have a lot of churches around here, a lot of living communities, but we haven't seen their impact. Why? What reason is this? Or does the church think they don't have any responsibility
You see,
in what's happening?
What I discover about the issue of church is that the church, they are living the priority. What do I mean? We need to balance spirituality with physical. If that is not done, there's going to be a problem. It's not as if the church is not doing anything, but we focus more on other things than the children that happen to be our future. You understand? It's not as if the church is not doing anything. If you look at where the church is coming from, we focus more on the adults. We focus more on our personal needs. But we forget to understand that we need to talk about the foundation. That's our children.
Absolutely.
And if we do not start with them, you see that you discover that so many parents are so carried away with, I need to pay my bill, which is very good. I need to do this, I need to do that. We must not forget that the Bible stated clearly that train up your child in the way they should go. When they are old, they will not depart from it. What you bring into the brain of your children from age 1 goes a long way. No matter what, you need to understand that these are my future. Because if you don't do that now, you will cry when you are not supposed to cry. We must not forget that we are in a very, very, very difficult and wicked world. In the Bible, if I'm allowed to use the Bible to support my own view and ideology, 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 started clearly that devil is roaring around looking for whom to devour. And an idle man becomes a very good tool for devil to walk, according to Proverbs 16. So what I'm trying to say is that we've learned our lesson. And let everybody go back to their drawing. They should go back to the room and sit down and draw it right. We need to concentrate more on the children now. We discover that most of the time in the church, the children are just left somewhere in the Sunday school department, teaching them who is Noah, who is Jacob, who is this. But we need to bring them along now. We need to let them know the good, the bad, and the ugly of life. Because if you are not giving them that information, they will get it elsewhere. We need to let them understand. I listen to Davido, I listen to Whiskey when I'm ministering and I'm talking about it. You see you looking at me, pastor. You need to have the understanding. You don't have to you don't need to condemn them. Let them understand that, man, this music is good for your listening, but you must not let this music become part of you, because what you consume becomes you. So we must not hide away from all these facts. You can imagine something that happened recently, a man of God, you know, telling the daughter to abort because she was impregnated by a Muslim. You don't start from there. Let them understand the reason why you wanted your daughter to marry a Christian.
Yeah.
And if you cannot, you can't force her. It has happened. So you try to see, what do we do from here? So when you don't give them, as I've said, if you refuse to give them the best alternative, you will lose them to the society. When I'm telling my kid, don't listen to whiskey, then what do I want them to listen to? I need to let them understand, why am I so concerned about preventing them from watching this type of video? I need to let them understand that this might not be able to help you. One of them was telling me something yesterday about a boy of 12 years having a girlfriend, and that the boy was telling them about the fact that the bonbon of the girl is somehow. I said, for this age, for your age, is wrong. I didn't scold them, I didn't beat them, but I sat them down and I was trying to educate them.
So in trying to cut you off, this question is for both of you, really.
Yeah.
We were having a discussion about culture as well.
Yeah.
Back home in our culture, if that is not allowed, basically, there's no way, no how.
Yeah.
You can't talk to your kids about having, you know, boyfriends or girlfriends till they were like over 18. And even then, it's maybe around the time when you want them to bring you know, their other partner's home, their other house home. That's the only time you have that conversation. But over here, the culture is different.
That is where
everything is different.
That is
so how much do you think there's a clash? Some of the problems we're facing now, how high is the impact of cultural clash, you know, in all these things that's going on in the society? How high do you think it is?
Culturally for kids, when you mean like here in the importance of culture?
Yeah, even back home in America, everywhere, the importance of culture, because you've got a lot of, like, people like us now, we've got a lot of immigrants that have stayed in this country for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And you've got them bringing up kids, you understand? Then you've got that clash between mother and child.
Yeah, I think culture is so important. I mean, especially in America where, and I wanted to comment on something that you mentioned too as well. But to your first point with culture, I think culture is incredibly important because, like in America, being a Black American, you have to fit into the culture that is there. So you can be Black, but you have to be controlled and you have to be contained. You have to be the kind of Black that we think is acceptable, not your kind.
Right.
And so with that, it contained without having the identity of knowing, originally because of slavery, knowing where you're from. Now you have to restrain yourself before you even have an opportunity to be. So the American culture is not inclusive. Diverse-wise, it's not inclusive. You know, and so it makes it really difficult. And I wanted to comment on something you said about the church as well. You know, I was just talking with a friend about this the other day, and I was saying, if a river runs through a village, it's impossible for the land around it to lack nourishment. And so if a church is implanted in a community, it is impossible for it to be impactful unless there is no water in the river. And so I think the issue is that generationally too, even with faith, we're coming from a generation that was very law-bitten. It was much about law, and you have parents that not mine. My mother, you know, tried her best to live what she taught. But one of the things that I got, as versus seeing, you know, other kids in different that were raised differently and also raised in a church, was there was law, but there was no love. See, I got a lot of love. I didn't get a lot of law, but I got a lot of love. And so there was this concentration on teaching me the law and sin, and I was introduced to God based off of fear. And so that's why millennials, a lot, they say nowadays that there's a high rate of millennials that are leaving the church because there's love, and that's what God is. So to be connected to the Spirit of God and to lack love is something different. It's just a practice that's just in four walls. You know? And so I think the church still has a huge ability to be impactful to our youth, and I think would be actually the starting point to the turning point for our youth in showing them love as well as the law, but using that to create love, you know.
Is your time to come into that? Because I absolutely agree with everything she says. So is there a way we can, you know?
No, you see, this is the third time I'm repeating, shouting them down instead of picking them up. You see, the problem about church is expectation. If I discover that you've been in the church for 10 years, I expected it to be like Jesus. So until when we change that perspective and mentality, we'll be having problems. So I don't want to agree that the church are not doing enough, but the impact is not enough.
That's right.
And if you look at the law, if you look at the society, how we can do things in Africa is far, far different from how you do things here. Of recent, I've seen people being handcuffed while talking about Christ on the street. So the phobia of fear is there. Even in the church, some parents or the chief are taking care of the children might be afraid. I don't want to touch him, I don't want to touch her. So it reduces the efficacy of the value that is meant to be embedded into the life of the children. So I want to believe that the church are trying their best, but our best is not enough. So my advice and what I think we might do now is to put in more effort, and we'll get there. Because it's not a problem that started just in a day. So we surely get there.
And
so
I think we're getting there too.
We're getting there.
I feel like God is definitely moving in and restructuring things in the church structure as well. That I felt too.
So
you know, because definitely getting there.
You can see that most of the churches now are engaging the children. They are engaging the children department in so many things. Drama. You know, they try to tell them the importance of the value of life itself. Because they just need to understand this. The values of life. They need to have the understanding of the values of life. Once that is embedded in their life, then it makes it easier for you, even for the parents. So I believe that we're going to get there by the grace of God.
Hopefully. This is very, very interesting today. My name is Toyin Morafa. You're watching Voice of the Voiceless. I've got two very important guests here with me. I've got Felicia Cade here, and I've got Pastor Olayiwole, and we're really having like a very interesting conversation. Among the reasons why I wanted to talk about Nipsey, it's just basically the things we've been talking about now, because he created a community that I believe will still live on even after he's gone. He focused on STEM, building a school that was focused on STEM researches. He did a lot of things. But one thing I noticed was he was very conscious as well. Now when I say conscious, he used to go home, back to Eritrea, because that's where his father was from. He connected with his family there. He was able to know where he's from. He was able to know what his name stands for, which is the reason why I keep talking about culture. Do you think if that's what some of our kids lack now, and do you think even if they don't know where they came from, do you think it's something that consciously they can go out and talk about and research into? Maybe that'll give them a sense of identity, or that's where we can start from.
I think it's a part of coming into a place of wholeness as a culture, because even for me as a Black American, and you know, coming out to the UK, and 98.9% of the Black folks that I run into out here know exactly where they're from, and back home is being the complete opposite. Just being here makes me wonder, has made me wonder a lot about where I'm from. And I think that's a part of it, just like kind of like a missing parent. Like you find your way throughout life without it, but it still is something that's there. It's something you kind of need to know. And so I think it could play. I think it plays an important role in the restoration of the cultural restoration of identity.
So did you start feeling like this when you came over here, or is this something that you've been thinking about? I know that you're like a poet, you're an author, you write all those things. I've seen most of your work, and they're beautiful. They're very, very nice, by the way. Please check her out, because she has powerful words. We'll still go into that now. But do you think it's only now that you're beginning to realize it? And I'm asking because you're a millennial as well, because some of these kids, they don't even understand what words mean. Some of them haven't read in like ages. All they do is they just go online and start playing games and stuff. So they don't know how powerful words can be. Do you think that's part of the things of facing? Maybe this has woken you up when you came over here now, or something that you had at the back of your mind before?
No, I didn't have it in the back of my mind before. It was something that my sister had mentioned, but Growing up black in America, you don't think it makes much of a difference. Just as much as not having a father there, you don't really think that having a father there matters until you have one. And I think until I got here, I didn't think about it until I got here. And I saw the difference. The black people here walked with a more of a sense of self and of confidence. And there wasn't this familiar brokenness, this you know, familiar not belonging. There was this connection. And it was interesting. And it's got me in a space now of wanting to know, of wanting to get that last piece.
Which is, I'm coming to you now. We were talking about it before, like I said. Like I was telling her, I could trace my lineage back all the way when we go home. I'm from Ijebu-Ode. I know I can trace where my grandparents, you know, were buried and stuff, and I do know how important it is. So, you know, as we have a lot of single family homes these days, we have a lot of people stepping in to help the mothers. Are these some of the things that we should be encouraging our kids to look into now in these days? You know, be able to set up spaces, set up our own schools, set up our own community, so that we have the responsibility of training the kids and not just keep expecting the government, you know, to raise them.
You must not leave the government to do that.
Yeah.
I think, if I may pick from what she's just saying and what she has just said now, I think the problem of identity crisis is the major problem of all this. Like when I was growing, I discovered that in my family, if you are not first or second, you are nowhere to be found. So you go extra mile to make sure you come out best. I remember sometimes ago, for the sake of my children, that's some things I don't like saying. Sometimes ago, my result was not too interesting, and I couldn't take it home. Because there's a problem. You understand? You see, when you have that understanding of identity, and you know that you belong to a community, when I was growing, you dare not come home with any girlfriend or even hear your prayer. You think they're going to kill you, chop off your head, because that was the norm, that was the identity. Well, I discovered that in the world of today, people have decided to buy lies. They branded evil as good. And this is what is given to the children. So it becomes very difficult for you to begin to separate your culture from what is being sold to them. Because evil have been branded as good. So it takes the pain of parent and God. So these are some of the problems. I knew that this result is not too interesting. I did something, and I was caught. Because, you know, my brain then, I never knew that you don't just touch your result without being, you know, signed by your teacher. Because I was scared of how would I take this home. It's not that somebody will kill me, but the culture, the tradition in the house is that you don't come back home with either first, second, third, or fourth. You're going to be, it's like the stereotype is like you are a mad person. You don't know what you are doing. You have wasted your parents' money. So these are some of the things that have been given to us that we have swallowed, and it helps us. It goes a long way with us. You understand? So, and coming to the contemporary world we are right now, things like that have been branded as evil. So the evil has been branded as good. And these are the products that is daily being sold. So you will discover that the church alone cannot do it. It must be, everybody must be ready. And when I mean everybody, it's not about the church, it's not about the government. Individual, we need to look at it from the critical point of view that this is a problem that we can see. We must not hide and we must not pretend that it's not there. We need to agree that there is a problem. We just have to agree that there is a problem. Because my parents are enjoying me now because of what they've given to me. Even though I look at it from the aspect of bullying. That they bull, you know, I was joking with my mother one day. I say, if you come back to London, I will arrest you. Because these are the things you did. But I thank God she did it. You understand? So these are the problems. The value. The cultural value has been watered down the drain. The real value of godliness is no longer there. And the people that are supposed to support the value have decided to brand evil as good. So how do you come from there?
And you know, I think brokenness makes evil look good.
That is it.
And I think what's missing is love. You know, when you love yourself, when you love yourself, you love other people.
Yes,
you love God.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's a lack of there's a huge lack of of love. And that's one of the things that culture brings to us, a community. I don't need to go and be a part of a game if I have a family structure that loves me, that I feel valued in and empowered in. I don't need to go and find that somewhere else. I don't need to be seen, or I don't need to be somebody I'm not if who I am is accepted at home.
Absolutely.
You know? And I think love is, it has to be where we start.
Yeah, very correct. And that's just the reason why I'm saying it for the fourth time. You don't shut them down.
Yeah.
You know, you bring them up.
Yeah.
Because when you are shutting them down and you are not giving them alternative, that's where the love is.
Yeah.
At times you see my children doing some nasty thing, touching my head, you know. At times touching my head, trying to fight me.
We couldn't do that to my dad.
We can't do that. One day I got provoked. I said, "Stop touching my head." Yeah, you know, it's like we need to understand that, my sister, you love me. We need to understand that the love is so important.
Yeah.
Let them feel love.
Yeah.
Anywhere you are in your environment, let that love generate. Let it it's like smoke.
Yeah.
If there's love, nobody will want to wake up one day and say, "I want to be nasty today. I want to kill myself." When something is missing, and that's where we need to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to talk about mental health.
Absolutely.
I used to tell people there's no problem that can make me think suicidal. It's not possible because I love myself so much. You understand what I'm saying? So the mental health issue is very important. What is the thing going on in your brain? So how can I be helped?
Emotional help too.
That is it.
Yeah.
So this is where the love comes. I was telling somebody that, you see, the only way you can handle this situation is by pouring love. And she was looking at me, that my sister is nasty, my sister is this and that. I said, you have discovered this. If you give her back with nastiness, there will be problem. So you show her love. Then let her be confused that despite all that I'm doing to this, my sister, she's always showing me love. That's why the love is very, very important.
It matures you, because it helps you deal with conflict too, because when you love yourself, you love other people, you see that when someone's acting out of a place of hate, that it's just a lack of something that's missing in them. It's a brokenness within themselves.
So is this what the youth are missing? Because a lot of them, you get a lot of the parents and carers to give them well, kudos to them. They do try their best, but like you said, sometimes because of that generational problem, is this what they're missing? Are they they don't understand the type of love their parents are giving them. They misunderstand.
I met a 16-year-old boy that was having some issues with drugs and things like that. And I just looked at him and I just hugged him for a little while. Just hugged him, just gave him a long hug. And he was grateful for that. He said, thank you for just seeing me. I didn't try and condemn him. I didn't try and fix him. I just told him that he was worthy of love exactly where he was at. And then from there he can make the decision from a different place within himself when he's ready. But it wasn't forcing him. I'm here when you're ready to deal with this issue. I'm here for you. Whatever that means, it's freedom, because love never, even God, he doesn't take away our freedom of choice. So with our kids, we can't take away their freedom of choice because they're still going to choose. But I can say, I love you, and you have option A and B. You choose. I love you, whatever you choose, and I guarantee you that love will encourage them to choose what's right for themselves.
I understand, because if it was me now, I would not be hugging him. I'll be praying, blood of Jesus, everything on him right now.
So that's the missing link. That's the missing link. Just like what I've said, our expectation is a major problem in the society. You see, when you see somebody happen to have fallen into one mistake, either drug, knife, whatever, what can bring him back from that level is love. And that's why I watch a YouTube clip sometimes ago. The woman went to the court and said, I love you. Telling me telling the judge to jail you or kill you will not bring back my son.
That's true.
I don't know, maybe you watched that. I was moved and I was touched. And she used that medium to preach to the young man. I'm not encouraging people to knife each other or do something nasty, but we need to understand that people make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And the only thing you can do to bring them back or bring them out of that is to show them love. We make mistakes.
And moving into grace. I mean, even biblically, there was a time where, because of like I was, my sister when I was young was, she was pretty strict with me, but I needed it because, and I grew up as I'm older now, and I appreciate it because I was very rebellious when I was young, so I needed a firm hand, you know, but I transitioned from being rebellious to being obedient, and now the same firm hand isn't needed. Now she adjusts, and love is there. Love is what's needed, and understanding is what's needed now. And I think moving from children being rebellious, I don't think our kids are that as rebellious as we think they are. I think they're morally their hearts are in a good place, and this is coming from like millennials, because we're in between, so we have an understanding of the older generation, and we're not too far from the younger generation. And what I've noticed is that it's really I think love will completely, because they got the smarts, they're intelligent. I mean, their access to information is impeccable. And coming up for me, we didn't get that until about high school. High school is when it started to really first started to really boom.
Well, do you think that's a bit overwhelming for them? That's one of the reasons why they can't really cope, because they're getting so many things thrown at them at the same time. You understand? Like the internet, the way the internet is now these days, there's so many things you can get access to, and they're not emotionally mature enough to handle it. Is that one of the reasons why you think this is going on, especially when it comes to the respecting? You know, internet says to you, okay, if this person disrespects you, I'm going to knife you. You know, things that, do you think that's part of the problems that we're facing now?
Yeah, I think that, but I think along with music, it's just like, it depends. Social media can be bad depending on how you use it. I think it depends on how the kids are using it and gravitating it, and that depends on the state of mind of the child. And if they're, you know, if my kid, what are they looking for? Because what they're looking for online is a reflection of what they're thinking about, where they are internally. Like when I go online, I look for books. I read, you know, I read. I look for YouTube videos that are inspiring. Some of my kids, my little cousins who are, I have three girls that are brilliant, and their conversation is immaculate. Their level of intelligence at their age is far further than what mine was at 18 because of the access to information earlier. So I think actually they're more intelligent. It's just about making sure that they have the internal is set right, so that when they're using all of these avenues, that they're just using them for their good, and they're not being used by it and controlled and manipulated by it into doing other things.
Oh, right. Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm really overwhelmed now because I've got a lot of information that I'm soaking up as well. As you can tell, we have a project called Project Toyin, and part of the things we're doing is we're doing a lot of research into what's causing this problem. So I'm very thankful that both of you are here today, because I'll be able to get the feedback and give it back to my partners, and we'll be able to amend things the way we're doing it now. And that brings me to Pastor Olayiwole. Judging from the conversation we're having now, what sort of structure do you think the church have, or the community? Without saying the church, I keep saying the church because that's part of our community.
The community the church is still a community.
And you can't disregard it.
Do you want me to be sincere, or I should paraphrase?
Be sincere. Then you can paraphrase after.
There's something that is very, very important. Money.
Right.
We must not underestimate the importance of money. And what do I mean? We need to start thinking of expanding the youth center. I've said it, if you are taking something from anybody, you must be ready to give him an alternative. For instance, for example, in Nigeria now, 99.9% of the youth are into the music.
That's right.
You hardly hear anybody killing each other.
That's right.
If they are not into the music, they are into sport, either footballing. And the third one is not a very good one, that internet fraud. You understand? So you see that there's an alternative to whatever they've been doing before. So if we are thinking of eradicating this in this part of the world, we need to be ready to give them an alternative.
But what alternative can you give a socially disadvantaged child? A child that's going home that doesn't even know whether there'll be food at home, doesn't know whether he will meet his parents, doesn't know what state he will meet the family structures.
I discussed something behind the screen with you the other time. That we need to have a center where a youth can easily go to get something. I was saying that, you know, it's like in a situation where a 12-year-old boy has been given drugs to sell just because of £20 or trainers, you know, or to buy a very good designer shirt. If such a guy knows that I have a place, maybe in my community or council, that I can take £20 a week, so that's about £80 in a month. He might decide he has an alternative. I don't need to sell drugs. Under 1 month, I might be able to save some money to buy myself a trainer. So I'm taking out the parent from that scene now. And knowing too well that we have a lot of parents that they take care of their children all alone. It's part of the social problems which I might not be able to fix. So if a child knows that I'm going home and I'm not going to be able to get something to eat, but there's an alternative somewhere, you will discover that he can hardly sweep. That no, I don't have to do this. But when you think of a child that is going home, that the parent is not there, the father is not there, the mother is not even there for him, and you see somebody that wants to give him an alternative, young man, can I give you this to sell? You're going to make £20, or you're going to make £500 in a week. Of course, he's going to fall into that. So I'm still talking about taking care of the children from the aspect of giving them an alternative. When you are taking something out of them, you must be ready to give them an alternative.
So, and that's so important.
Yeah.
I think resources is one of the major things too, because they have also, idle time is the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
And you have time. They have time and no money, and they're stressed out. So they're stressed out from not having enough resources at home, not having enough food. Mom can't afford everything. So if we create programs that, for one, can give these kids jobs, as well as teaching some of the characteristics that they need to have. But I think one of the major things is creating resources, having resource centers, having resource centers that provide job opportunities for these kids, hands-on training on how to do things, because even in other countries, kids are working early.
That's true.
Kids are working really earlier than 16.
Something was just going in Nigeria. You see a lot of people steal cars. Do you hear that here? People don't need to steal. If you are working and you have good credit rating, you can get a car. So these are some of the problems. You see, this is not about spirit. It's not about spirituality. It's about reality. And if it's not there, this problem can never be solved.
But judging from what she said just now, in our communities, we don't have a lot of youth clubs anymore. They've closed a lot of them down. So I think the new youth clubs we have now, they're in McDonald's, they're in KFC. That's where these kids meet. And believe me, because I work on the street, if I go in there, the things these kids get up to is really scary. They don't have alternatives. Do you understand?
That's a problem. Freedom. I think that's so powerful what you're saying. Sorry to interrupt you. But I think that the problem is that the focus of the centers, for some reason, ends up not being the kids. And then if it is, then they're trying to control the kids and what they need to do. I think if we are going to have a center, we have to have one that gives them the free, have opportunities that they have the freedom to choose from. But if they choose that they just want to watch TV, or if they want to play or whatever they want to do, you know what I mean? They have the freedom to do that too. But making sure those resources are
that reminds me about what I was going to ask from you. I know you do a lot of I don't know whether you guys call them speakeasy.
Spoken word.
Spoken words and stuff. Do you think it's things like that we need now to talk, to engage the kids? Because like I was saying before, words are very powerful to us back in our culture. Words can either make you or break you, depending on what you say about yourself. I can't wake up in the morning and start cussing myself, because what if it becomes true? So what you invoke in yourself is very powerful. But these kids don't understand that. They don't have that knowledge because we've not been able to impart it to them from one way or the other. Do you think it's things like this are important? And like the things that you do, and how do you think this should be done? What way should it be done? And how powerful can it be? How powerful an impact will it have?
I think writing should be a huge part of the educational system, because one of the things that I learned, because I started writing at about 22, and one of the things that it did for me was it helped me to unpack. And so when you're writing poetry, everything that's swirling in your subconscious is coming out. So if you have any issues or any pain, it's going to come out as you're writing, and you don't have to be a poet by definition. You could just be you. And so if these kids are able to have free write, because kids in school aren't able to talk about the way the system is set up. If you have a kid that's being molested at home, they're not going to be able to come and tell the teacher, because the teacher's going to they know exactly, these kids are smart. They know if I tell the teacher's going to call them, they're going to take me away from home. So I have an issue that I can't express with nobody. I can give you something where when you're by yourself, you can talk, you can write about it. If you can't escape it, you can write your way through it. And that's what writing did for me. It helped me to write my way through some of my own traumatic experiences within myself that had never been dealt with, that I had never dealt with. And so as I was able to unpack that, I was able to ask myself the right questions. I was able to figure out why I reacted the way that I reacted. I was able to forgive and figure out what it was, because I don't think the kids don't want to be good. Sometimes you just have to be so full of things and you don't know how to unpack it. I'm angry, but I don't know where it comes from. I'm hurt, but I don't know where it came from, or even culturally dealing with your emotions. You know, I don't know how to deal with hurt. Where am I supposed to put it? You know, and I think that it would be a huge benefit to the education system.
So Pastor, what do you think the community, because I'll stop saying church because it's part of our community.
Church is a community on
So what do you think our community, how do you think we can be able to help? Because like I said, we can't keep looking to the government for help or support. There's only so much that we can do.
We can start from our own family. The community starts from the family. So what we just need now, let's everybody now agree and believe that there's a problem. So the first solution comes when you realize there's a problem. And the next solution is, how can I get this problem solved? So we need to understand now that there's a problem now. Then you and I must go back home and go back to the family table and talk about it more. That is a problem. Then it's going to help us to put and give more attention to the children in the house. So there's another thing that says charity begins at home. When the problem is not yet resolved in the house, then what are you doing in the community? So we need to go back home, start from the family itself, then we bring it out. So that's I believe we just have to take it very, very serious now. It's something everybody needs to talk about. We need to preach about it. We need to let people get the awareness. I remember when this thing happened sometimes ago, they called it Ebola. It was so interesting that Nigeria was the first country that was able to stop it, because the awareness was so much. So that's what we need. The Bible says, for with God nothing shall be impossible. There's nothing that God cannot take care of. But we need to play our part, because every prophecy and promise of God come with responsibility. If my people that are called by my name shall, then I will. If you do this, I will do that. So most of the promise of God is embedded with responsibilities. So we must not shy away from our responsibility. Let's go back home. There are so many families, they speak very good English outside, but in the house they don't speak English. You know, I'm just trying to be talking in parable. No, I'm talking in parable. You see them disciplining people outside, but they cannot discipline their children. So what are you talking about? And that's why the child can look into you and say, Daddy, what are you talking about? Is that what you're doing in the house? You fight with mommy every day and you're trying to tell me you want to settle a fight outside. So let's go back home. Start from our own family, then bring it to the community. And I know God will help us. That's part of my own thinking. I might be wrong.
Absolutely. No, you are right. Which reminds me, on Facebook, I'm part of a group on Facebook called Stop Our Kids from Getting Killed. Now this group is it was actually started by a group of bereaved parents, and family that lost a lot of loved ones to knife crime. So I actively support them, and on the 17th of April, people, there's going to be something called Operation Shutdown. What they're trying to do is there's going to be like a protest. They're taking the protest to the government. They want a cobra meeting, an urgent one, to discuss this, really discuss all the violence that is going on. So please, on the 17th of April, if you guys are interested, please go and check out their site. It's very important. The problem is not just for them, even though they've lost bereaved ones. For every person that we lose out there, we're losing a part of our community. It's not just to do with the families. And another thing we're doing now as well, we're getting a youth correspondent for this Voice of the Voiceless. So once a month, we have a youth correspondent that will be sitting down here to talk about the youth issues. We're trying to see how we can engage them more and see some of the things that we'll be doing. So we'll be having a specially tailored curriculum to help this young man, because I believe, like every other person, education is very important, which is one thing I'm going to get to you now. Now the youth, the millennials, they keep saying, oh, you don't need to go to school. You don't need to go to school to make it. How important do you think education is you know, in these days and this time. And we're not talking about just the normal mainstream education. Are there other forms that we can introduce to them to let them know that without you knowing who you are, this is going to continue to happen? People will still come and keep manipulating you, making you do this thing for their own needs.
Yeah, I think I always, when I'm advising my kids on education, I always tell them it depends on what you're going to do. Because what you're doing may not mean that you might need a certain kind of education. You might be able to go ahead and start it off with going to a trade school. So it depends on what you're doing. If you want to be a doctor, you're going to need about 8 years of school. You're going to need to learn. You're going to need the hands-on training. So I always tell them it depends on what you're doing. But as far as, I think education in itself needs to be in its proper place, because to be educated, you know, university education, it's chosen curriculum. So you have loads of information and history that's out there that's not in the curriculum. So I think that education-wise, you can soak up as much as you can, but I think it's our own individual responsibility to make sure that we're reaching out, and that make sure that our kids are reaching out as well as we are. You know, talking to them, hey, mom's reading this book. What do you think about it? I want you to check it out, and let's talk about it. Let's read it together, and engaging our kids in finding out more information through finding more, you know, more books and more knowledge.
More knowledge, Which, you know, back home as well, there is no way, it wasn't anything, there was no two ways about it. You have to finish your education.
But you remember, back home, you'll be forced to take BK and CRB and CRK, that is Christian religious knowledge and Islamic religious knowledge. And the two religion preaches good value. All that have been removed from the curriculum of the school. Because you get some value from all these scriptures. You read it just for passing. You know, you just want to pass that. You want to pass the examination. But there's so many things that you'll be able to extract from it.
Well, whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that these things have been removed? Because, like I said, I come from a very strong family, Muslim family, but I eventually became Christian. But I still go around, I don't see people practicing what they preach. So if you're not using it, obviously someone will remove it. So whose fault? Is it the government's fault, or is it the community that is not actually practicing what it's preaching?
It goes back to individual. It goes back. You know, there's no law in this country that tells you not to discipline your children. Are you aware of that? But we try to pretend as if we don't know. It portrays on the individual. Government is not going to be. I was telling some people when they did ask my view, Sky TV did ask my view about situation in Nigeria. I say, leave God aside. It's in our hand. There's God in the country. Yes, we need, just like I've said, we need to play our own part. It's not about government. It's not about, do you want to tell me if the Christians together in this country decide to form a forum and say, our children must be taught this and that, it's going to be taken into consideration. But we are silent about it. So if that is not done, then you need to understand that it becomes your responsibility to give that to your own children. You need to give them that value. If you don't do it now, we'll still be coming back to sit forever. So it's been portrays on us. So anything that is missing from the school curriculum, and you know that is going to cause a lot of havoc in the future, try as much as possible to play your own part. That's just it. The government cannot do it all.
But I think that as you know, because I'm a part of the church. I'm a part of the church, and I'm, you know, active in my church. Well, I was active in my previous church back at home. I think that as the body of Christ, the church, we have to take responsibility for a period of time of moving away from the intent and from listening to God and going our own way and creating structures that were about God but not including God.
That is it.
And I think that once we understand that we are called to be reconcilers, to reconcile, we have to take accountability for going our own way and what that caused. Because I don't think as a church we've sat still to think about, okay, for example, when you have the group, or when it comes to homosexuality and how they've been scrutinized in the church and abandoned. Now that is not how God has asked us to deal with that issue, and how God has asked us to speak to them. That is our own leveling of sins, and that is our own perception of, like, you know, I don't like that, you know, and creating a barrier to where we're supposed to be a bridge to say, hey, it's okay if you're dealing with that. Let's talk about it. Let's pray about it, instead of you going to hell and we're not going to talk about it, you know. And I think as a church we have to be responsible for creating some of the problems and some of the reason why people have walked away from church. Because if they're walking away, that means God's not there. Because God, wherever God is, God says, taste and see that I am good. And when you taste and you see something, it draws you back. It draws you back. And if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me. If I'm not being lifted up, then I'm drawing all men to me and not to where it's supposed to be. And so I think we have to take account some accountability.
When somebody introduces a condemned criminal that just happened to be released from the prison, and you take him to church, and you introduce him, how do you think people will accept it? Will people be ready to sit with him?
No.
Terrible,
No.
That is a problem. That's a problem. So you are conscious of sitting with, hope he's not going to sniff my pulse again. And that is known, it's shown to them, they see, then they discover that I don't think I'm acceptable here.
But if I want to play devil's advocate, like you were saying before, for example, the boy that you saw, 16-year-old, that you just gave him a hug. My first instinct, my first reaction will be, whoa, I need to pray for you. Let's see how you are. Let's see whether you were adapted, then I can see what I can do. But it's because of the perception that is being fed to me every day by the media, by the people, by the youth. I go out there, I see all these youths trying to look hard for no reason. You see like 11, 12-year-old kids now these days thinking, yeah, I'm a gangster. You understand? Don't mess with me. So even though I'm trying to understand, the perceptions, the things that are being fed to me are not letting me. It's like a barrier as well. I can't get to it. So the question is, who will be able to how can we, that bridge, how can we close that bridge?
I think love. Because when you like a mother who it doesn't matter what her kids, if her kids murdered a million people, you know what I mean, if her kid has some kind of skin disease, a mother is never going to not love her child. When you love something, you love it, and there's nothing that is able to come in between that. And I think the issue is that we love ourselves too much and other people too little. And we're more concerned about our own safety than about loving people. And it's a sacrificial love. And I think we're, even being out here and dealing with some of the homeless out here, people want to help, but they don't want to help to the point where it's going to inconvenience them. In order to create change, you have to love and help when it's inconvenient. That might mean spending 3 hours if somebody needs you to talk for 3 hours, and you like, look, I got 30 minutes because I got stuff that I want to do. It's coming out of ourselves, and that's what real spirituality does. That's what a real connection with God does. It takes you completely out of yourself. And when you're out of yourself, it's impossible to be blind and ignorant to the needs of those in front of you, around you, in your community, and it expands,
Oh, absolutely.
She said it all. Everything in this life is about risk taking. To be great in life, you need to take risk. If somebody have not taken the risk, I shouldn't be a pastor.
That's true.
I know where I was before, and I know the name they called me. But somebody took the risk by bringing me, inviting me, talking to me, and look at where I am today. So it's all about risk, but God will help you. Because you need to, as you said, you are not me, I'm not you. But you need to tell God to help you, to lead you. But one thing I want us to understand is love is not something that we evaluate. If we really want to give the kind of love God has instructed everybody to give to each other, it's agape, unconditional. And just like what she has just said, no matter what happened to your son, he's still your son. So if we can look at individual from that angle of God said love yourself as your neighbor, then I must be able to, if I cannot give 100%, I should be able to give 80. And it helps both of us to go on together. So that's just my...
And it's an introduction. I think it's and I was telling a friend at church, I was saying, if we become, I said, imagine, like you ever see a kid come back from a carnival and their face is lit up and they've had this experience that they want to share with you. I said, imagine if we left church like that. If we had such an experience with God that when we walk out, there's something that's lingering on us that draws people in. And it's that love, and getting to a space where we're really not just talking about God and what God does, but we're living it, and it's running through our veins and our body, and it's leaking out,
Absolutely. You're still watching The Voice of the Voiceless. My name is Toyin Morafa. One of the reasons why I've decided to do a religious theme, well, inspired theme is simply because, like I keep saying, we can't keep neglecting our community, and church is a part of our community. They're essential part of our community. So all this slacking on from some churches, I'm not saying all, I'm saying it's not my business, it doesn't really concern me. I think it's not on. That's part of the problems, because these youths are looking at us to see how we deal with problems, how we deal with the solutions, and that's what they will take. And that will lead me to another issue. The issue with well, I'll say stop and search. Issue to do with the police. When we grew up, we grew up not trusting the police. We were told not to trust the police, because the police back home is a different thing. They're inefficient, they're very corrupt. When you come over here as well, all the problems we're having with the police is because part of it, I believe, is cultural, and part of it is just, you know, socially disadvantaged kids dealing with all of them. So we've got a lot of clashes between the community and the police. What do you think? What do you think can resolve it, or at least can make us bridge that gap between us and the police, judging from how the situation is back home? When I say back home, I mean
American.
Yeah. I'm not American.
I think it's twofold. I think when it comes to the police officers, you have to think about everything flows from the top down. So you have police officers that are not being trained properly. So I think that the justice system needs to enforce and incorporate training systems that are inclusive, that are also culturally sensitive, that are also the officers understand mental health, that you're not taking a boy from Orange County, which back at home is a white suburb area, and putting him in the middle of Los Angeles where he's naturally going to be scared. I think there needs to be an age gap as well, because you're able to be a cop at 21 and your frontal lobe isn't even finished developed until you're about 25. So they're not, either ego isn't controlled, they're scared, and so they do what any human would do regardless of what color they are or if they have a uniform on. They're not being trained properly. Then you have social media, which controls the way black people are, especially black men, are being perceived. When you put if I've never seen a black man and all I've seen is them being murderers and rapists, then when I see one, that's what I'm going to see.
That's true.
And so I think it's really us, which is what we're doing too now, is creating our own movies, but also as well as us the world educating themselves enough to where the first black man you run into shouldn't be one that you think is a robber. You have people of other cultures that don't look like you, that are friends, that you can talk to and see beyond what you see. And I think it just starts with really cracking down on the media and the justice system for making sure that they're training the police officers, as well as back then they used to have. I remember when they used to have some of the police officers that lived in the communities that they were working in, and so I think that there's a disconnect with the officers in the community. Some of them live 2 to 3 hours away from the community that they're actually working in. So
we call them police community, support officers.
You take it from your postcode to another postcode entirely.
And the question I was going to ask you, judging from what you said now, do you think part of the problems we're having with the police, do you think part of it, let's be honest, is our social responsibility as well? We're not reaching out to them as well. They don't understand our cultural backgrounds as well. You've got people that all they've grown up with is like the black British culture. They don't see all the problems we're having. So do you think part of it is we to not engaging them, letting them see things from the way from where we're coming from as well, and seeing how we can?
I think you've answered the question yourself. The first thing we should think of is how to stop our children from carrying the gun and the knife.
Absolutely.
The problem should not be stop and start. They're just trying to do some experimental with that. What can we do? I don't want to blame them for whatever they want to do, because they are thinking of what can we do to stop this problem. But the most important thing is how can we stop our children from carrying gun and knife. Then the issue of comparing Nigerian police with if you are sincere with yourself, the police in this part of the world, I believe they are more trained, well taken care of in terms of social amenities.
But don't forget that in this day and age now, because they need a lot of police, they don't train them like they used to anymore.
Maybe.
They get a lot, you know, back in those days, they used to get, a lot.
Maybe.
Yeah. And maybe preventing guns, too, because that's power.
So,
you know.
So I want to believe, just like what you said, there's a lot of reduction, cutting, and these are part of the problem. You know, I said it the other time, that it's like I just push it under the carpet. The government must be ready to push in more money, more resources.
Absolutely.
If not, we'll continue to sit on the round table to talk about things.
Yes.
I am saying, and I will keep on saying it, if you are taking anything from somebody, you need to give him an alternative to hold on to. If that is not there, then there will be a problem. Because necessity is the mother of invention. When I know that I don't have a parent that will give me £10, and I have somebody getting ready to give me £50, I want to fall in for it. So these are some of the problems. And I pray that God will help us in Jesus' name. So these are some of the problems that she has said it all. That we need to sit down now and think about what can we do, knowing too well that there's a problem. We need to educate our children that the police are your friend. Because some, you know, going to prison to some people is like is an added badge or star. Like if I've not been to prison, I'm not mature. I'm not proud enough. You know, this is also taking them to prison might not even help them. These are some of the norms that we need to correct. That it doesn't give you a good name. I remember when we were very, very young, when you see somebody that can be cane and is not crying, then you look at him as an hippie. So everybody wants to pad his put on when you are going to be beaten because you don't want to cry. And you don't want all those scared to laugh at you. So it becomes a norm. So some people will take it for a credit on themselves, going to prison, stabbing somebody. So all this impression needed to be corrected. So before we now think of, you know, cautioning because you see a lot of people bringing an issue on search and stop and start. It shouldn't be an issue. If there's no people carrying out knife, there will be no need for stop and start. So what we should do and think of is how can we stop and prevent our children from carrying the knife. Then we need to educate them the more, and if we have a way of getting to the government to tell them, train these police in a way that they will understand that these people are not animal. You have to be friendly with them. If you want to take anything from them, you need to know how to go about it. Because when a policeman is coming on any black guy, he might be thinking that this is a stereotype. You can imagine if 3 white men are sitting and a black guy is there, and you want to start the only black man there. The first thing that comes to his brain is, this is a stereotype. You are discriminating. So you see the black man coming from the angle of violence. Why me? You understand? So the norm, the problem is there, embedded in the heart of people.
So whose fault is that, like I keep saying? Is that the mainstream media? Because this is part of the reason, that I'm having problems with it.
And it's absolutely the media, you know. And you know, like back at home in Los Angeles, there's a tagline for the police: it's to protect and serve. When you think about that, not to enforce the law, not to impose, you know what I mean? It's to protect and serve. My job, I've been hired to protect this community and to serve this community. If every police officer back at home stood by that, we would have no issues.
That's right.
Minimal issues, because how they would address the issues would be different. I stay in Long Beach. There's been Long Beach. I think the police department in Long Beach is getting better. I think that all of what's going on in the world is making room for a much needed needed discussion on the retraining of the police officers. But I think it starts with the police officers, because they have the gun. They have the gun, and I can't no matter what I do, you know, I can't change how you see me. And if you're gonna have a gun, that's power and that's responsibility. Then you need to make sure that your glasses aren't foggy and you're not looking at me through the lens of some stereotypes that you have stored up in your mind. That's your responsibility, because you have the gun. I'm just a victim, you know, and black men are just walking and being stereotyped and bullied. And that's an issue, because it's a huge issue. So I think the police, it's not to be one-sided, but because they have the gun, I think that they need to initiate the kind of change that we need to see in the justice system, and to stop the searches. You know.
because yeah, I'm sure you've seen some of the videos of stop and searches, you know, online. Yeah. Some of them have been blown way out of proportion. Yeah. Some of them are justified. Yeah, some of them are just, you know, just because people want to say the racist or whatever.
90% of the blacks will never want to stop and start, not because they are criminal, but because of just what we are discussing now.
Invasive,
it's not well addressed. It's not properly done. So you want to restrict. You want to restrict anybody from embarrassing you.
Yeah. Or they want. I've seen too that they want them to be small. So it's this large ego thing where I won't shoot you as long as you bow down to me. So you belittle yourself and you become small, and then I'll let you go. And then I'll give you what I feel that I get you. But if you don't become low, then I'm not giving it to you. And that's what happens in a lot of cases. It becomes a racial issue and an ego issue too. Is that I need to, because we're kind of human, whether you're a cop or whatever you are, I need to feel validated by making you feel small. And and then in the police system, it's in there, and it's too heavy in there. So something, you know, something has to be done because you're killing. You are literally murdering the people that you are put in position to protect and to serve.
Absolutely, yeah, that is spot on, and that is really powerful. You could tell when you've got someone that loves words and loves to, you know, write poems and stuff. They always come up with powerful words. So let me just use this little time to talk about, you know, your work. Can you tell us what you do and how this, you know, with the spoken words, the poems and everything?
Yeah. So I started writing, and my first set of writings were about that emptying out of my subconscious, and I've transitioned into writing more about how can I be impactful with what I'm doing and be purposeful with it, you know, and God's gifted me the ability to string words together. And so my purpose in my poetry, which is part of the reason me being out here as well, is to encourage people and to inspire people and to make people think, you know, flip the script and think about things that we haven't thought about and talk about things we haven't talked about. And so I'm making a decision to dive more into topics that aren't being talked about and finding a way to creatively make it presentable to where it's edible and people can digest it and leave not just hearing a poem, but leave thinking about something.
And they've got something from it. So what sort of things are you talking about in our discussions? What sort of things are you delving into?
Well, I have one that I'm working on called Echoes of Lost Boys, and I'm talking about as women we're able to talk about some of the sexual abuse that we've been through, and vice versa. But men are not. Very seldom do you find men that are able to talk about some of the sexual abuse that happens that creates those boys turning into men and becoming sexual predators, and not all of them, but it has its tree of branches. But creating a poem to where we're thinking about and creating a space for men to be able to be open and to be vulnerable and to talk about things as freely as us as women are, you know, able to talk about it. And so I'm doing that. Women's empowerment, spirituality is a huge part of it. You know, God is a huge part of everything that I do, and really being impactful in a sense of just really making sure that I'm doing something that's purposeful and not just for me. You know, because I'm giving to somebody else what was gifted to me. You know, there's a saying, teach a man how to fish in there, to fish for themselves. So it's really using everything that I have to create change in the world before my time's up.
Oh, powerful. And that's exactly what Nipsey Hussle said. You make sure, because this place is temporary, empty yourself of everything, as much as you can, because when you're going back, make sure you don't go back with nothing. Which is quite powerful, and that's what I have a feeling I'll be hijacking you more. I'll be hijacking you more as well. We'll probably be doing something for the community, which once it's all put together, before you go, I'll make sure there's something that is done. And we were talking about giving a Nigerian name, a Yoruba name. So all the names, you know, you're allowed to write in names to see which one will fit her. Personally, I love to give her Mojisola because she looks like a Mojisola.
I'm gonna take that. I got a Nigerian name. See, I gotta go to Nigeria now.
Mojisola.
What does that mean?
It means waking up to well. Waking up to well. Yeah, but I also see that's the name that I feel that is fitting.
Let me give up Olayiwole.
Oh, what's that mean?
Well, my Lord.
I said, God has done this.
God has done it, yes. Yes, so we have so many.
You said so much about God empowering you, helping you, so you decide to brand it Olayiwole, or you call you Shay.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I think I'm Nigerian.
Yes,
I'm convinced now that I got some Nigerian in my blood.
Yeah. I think you're back home. You're home now.
Yeah.
That's how we're so happy to adopt you. I'm sure when we've got enough time, we're able to tell you about the traditions, the culture, even the folklore.
It wouldn't be fair unless I gotta have a traditional Nigerian plate now. Yeah. I gotta get some Nigerian food now.
Maybe like jollof rice.
So I'm coming to dinner.
Definitely. You'll be invited, definitely. But we shall be doing something before you go, because I love for you to be able to address the kids. I think you have that knack. They'll be able to hear it from you and not just us preaching and talking about it to them. You know, we just want the same thing. We all want the same thing. We all want a better community. Yeah. We want a community where the youth can be, you know, like Nipsey Hussle. Just see the impact of what happened to him. See how a rare gem is lost. You understand? And that's what we'd like to see. We'd like to see productive people. We want to be able to feel that loss should you go, to know that, okay, this is how this person is. We don't want you to be cut down at the start of your youth, the start of your achievements. At least by the time you wake up and you're conscious, they'll be able to say, oh, you had a lot of impact in the community. Thank you. This is so, you know, sometimes when you don't want to leave, you have some shows that you can just keep talking and talking, but it will be unfair, because I love to keep both of them here the whole day, but it will be so unfair. But I can bet you something, they'll definitely be coming back. She will be coming back before she goes back, and I'm sure she'll be here next day as well. I will be stalking her through her Facebook pages and everything. She knows that now. It's been really, really, really interesting today. I'd like to say thank you to my guest, Felicia Cade, and Pastor Olayiwole. Like, we're having a strong relationship with them now, so the voice of the voiceless, and both of them here, we will be bringing up something or setting up something, and we'll be inviting the youth to as well. Like I said, we'll be getting a youth correspondent as well, so we're trying to get as much youth as possible on board to see how we can help you. And we're looking for a youth journalist. We're looking for someone that can be trained as a news reader, you know, a news reporter, because we have to take responsibility for our media as well. I resent the way the media treats my community, so that's one of the reasons why we're doing all this. So if there's any youth out there that is interested in becoming a news reporter or a news reader, please do not hesitate, you know, to get in touch with us. My name is Toyin Morafa, and you've been watching Voice of the Voiceless. Have a nice weekend, and I hope to see you next week. Bye for now.
Ìpàdé ọlọ́dọọdún Shiloh Convention níbi tó lọ́rẹ̀ tí ń dánwò ọlọ́run ló ní ológo New Dawn lákòrí rẹ̀ ìgbà ó tó fún gbogbo wa ní òyìnbá o ẹ jẹ́ ká lọ. Ó yá gbogbo ènìyàn ẹ tẹ̀lé mi ká lọ sí Shiloh Convention 2019 níbi tí Ọlọ́run ti máa ń dìgbàgbọ́ àdúrà gbogbo ènìyàn lọ́dọọdún tí ó sì máa ń fi ìdáhùn sí gbogbo ìbéèrè gbogbo wa. Oh yeah, Cherubim and Seraphim Movement Church, Rehoboth Chapel, Ayọ̀ní London, Surulere UK District, Park Lane present Shiloh Convention 2019. Theme New Dawn, Ìgbà Ọ̀tun, coming up on Saturday 27th April 2019 by 12 noon prompt at River Center, Minta Road, Barking, Essex, IG 11 OGA. Ẹ darapọ̀ mọ́ ìpàgọ́ ọlọ́dọọdún Ṣílò ti tọdún yìí tí a pè àkórí rẹ̀ ní ìgbà ọ̀tun. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, Ọlọ́run ti ṣetán láti mú ìgbà ọ̀tun dé bá ayé gbogbo wa lórí iṣẹ́, lórí ètò ìṣúná, lórí okòwò àti ìdáwọlé wa. New dawn in every corner of our life. Come and experience the supernatural power of Jesus Christ at Shiloh Convention 2019, where most senior mother in Israel, Prophetess Duni Ologo, leader in charge, will be hosting everybody. And chief host, Special Apostle Pastor F.A. Abati, Surulere UK District Chairman and leader, Superior Evangelist Shoile, Prophet Bankole John Emilerikan, His Eminence Most Reverend Dr. S.A. Abidoye, Baba Ladura, C&S Movement Church, Ayoni Worldwide. For more information about Shiloh Convention 2019, call 0772 4922 or email rehobotchapel1@gmail.com. Buses from Backing Train Station EL2 and EL3, call 079 58646052 or 07984816710. Don't miss Shiloh Convention 2019. It's time for new dawn in your life. Jesus is Lord.
My daughter-in-law, so how are you planning for my son's birthday? No, I have to cook up for her. Do you people have ogirisi there? No? It's okay. Okay, let me call you back. Mama Chiji, okay. Hi, sir, wait a market. Please pack some ogirisi. I am going to visit my son. My daughter-in-law, it's arranged. But you must use original red oil to prepare the soup. What? I'll call you back. Mama Chijo, please include Isio Morocco. My daughter-in-law, everything is now set. But don't forget that gold wristwatch I saw the last time I visited you.
Now you can talk until you tire for just 11 kobo a second. Call all networks in Nigeria and 30 international destinations, including US, UK, China, Canada, and India for just 11 kobo per second. Dial *211# to activate.
That's it, boo-boo.
The largest data network, Glow, grandmasters of data.
ìsọjí alágbára. ìsọjí ayérayé great revival. èyí tó pa bọ̀bọ̀ àjọ̀dún kẹta ẹgbẹ́ wákàtí àlàáfíà ìyẹn 3rd year anniversary of Hour of Peace Evangelical Ministry open tí ó wáyé ní Friday 28th June ọdún yìí ìyẹn 28/6/2019 láago 10 alẹ́ títí di aago 4 ọjọ́ kejì. ẹ wá mi ẹ̀yin yóò sì yè seek me and live làkòrí ìtọ̀tẹ̀ yìí tó máa wáyé ní Castle Green Grave Street Diagram Exit RM9 4UN. Brethren, join us. Let's seek him so as to live together and your situation shall turn around for better. Bẹ́ẹ̀ lànà rẹ̀ máa fọhùn láyé onípojúpo ènìyàn. Ẹ má gbàgbé o. June 28, 2019 ní sọ́jí ohun àjọ̀dún yẹn máa wáyé láago 10 alẹ́ títí di aago 4 ọjọ́ kejì 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Kẹ́ni tó gbọ́ kó sọ fẹ́ni tí ò gbọ́. Bọ́lá máa ṣiṣẹ́ àmì ohun iṣẹ́ agbára. Fẹ́ kò rẹ́rẹ́ àlàyé ẹ pè sórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí 07939198946 àti 07550804352. Jésù ní Olúwa.
Heritage Television. Promoting African culture and heritage at its best. From talk shows that concern you to both local and international news that relates to you. From grassroots football to African children's programs. Heritage Television. We cover your social and special events like weddings, birthdays, church anniversaries, and so on, and broadcast them live on our apps and online. Heritage Television, broadcasting everything about culture and heritage. Heritage Television. We've got it covered. Do download our apps on both Android, iOS, and Windows mobile platform. Heritage Television, your very own TV station.